Hey there, you're listening to Sport Coach Education, the podcast that explores coach training in all its various forms. I'm your host, Liz Byam. Let's get started. Hi, and welcome. I'm excited to have Kyla Lupo on today. You're my first, actually, that might be a lie. I was going to say you're my first triathlon coach, but I did have a guy who owns a triathlon credentialing. He
Nice.
certifies, but for endurance. His name is Rick Prince. Actually, was a personal trainer with him over 20 years ago and
Wow.
had not really talked to him since. He told me USA Triathlon doesn't do any endurance certifications. Is
It
that right?
does it does triathlon coaching certifications, but very specifically to triathlon, as opposed to USCA, which does triathlon and I think like ultra running and something else.
That's him.
Yeah, so USCA, he must USCA then.
He started it. He founded it.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's really cool.
I interviewed him last week. I haven't published it yet.
Wow, nice.
Yeah. Small world, I guess. Well, of course you would
Yeah,
know that. But yeah, let's rewind. And I would love to hear about your journey as an athlete and a coach to get us started.
nice. Awesome. So, hi, I'm Kyla, and I've been coaching triathlon since 2017, and then like all sorts of different coaching roles and that sort of thing in the years leading up to that. I owned my own technology business for 10 years, and then we moved, and I was like, no, I'm going to do it. I'm going to jump full, both legs, no safety net into triathlon coaching. And as they say, that was the end of the story, so to speak. I have my coaching certification through USA Triathlon. I'm a level 2 coach. So that's me as a coach, as an athlete. I finished my first triathlon in 2016. And from that moment of crossing that finish line, I knew that I wanted as many people as possible to have this kind of experience, like having a big challenge and overcoming it. And in some cases, sort of like against all the odds, if that makes sense. And so I spent the next year figuring out how to make that happen and still racing and still being an athlete and all that great stuff. I've traveled to 2 different world championships. I've competed in a number of national championships as well. And I just love it. I love the challenge and the adventure and all the good stuff that comes with it.
Amazing. What sports did you play in high school? Did you play anything in college?
So in high school, I was on the swim team and I was in marching band. And a lot of people are like, marching band's not a sport. I'm like, it is a sport and I have a varsity letter to prove it. Like I worked hard for it, but I've been swimming since I was like 3 years old. My parents took me to the pool and didn't really like throw me in the deep end, but kind of threw me in the deep end. And so I've always been a swimmer. I swam in high school, I swam in college. Swimming was my gateway into triathlon, which is very uncommon. A lot of people come to it like from running or from cycling. There's only like 5% of us that come from swimming. And so the joke is that like triathletes love it when the swim is canceled. And I'm like, no, I hate it when the swim is canceled because it's like my favorite. My favorite. It's like the one thing I can win. Yay.
But it matters the least.
Yes and no. So it depends on what kind of racing you're doing. If you're doing
Okay.
draft legal racing, the swim is like one of the most important ones, like things that you can do because you want to stay with the pack, right? And so you want to get out of the water with everyone. So you really need to keep up with the fasty fast to get out of the water first. And then the big thing with swimming is to finish it and have enough gas in the tank to do everything else. And so it is, I think, the one that expends the most amount of energy, especially if you're not very strong in it. You're going to spend a lot of mental and physical energy getting through it.
I'm glad you
So
said that because I was totally going to add that mental energy in swimming is a lot. I
yeah,
also swam in high school
nice.
and I was a rower in college, but I guess, kind of kept up with my swimming, and I dabbled in the Ironman for a little while in my early 20s, so I can relate. I think I've done, like, 2 sprint triathlons ever. My first one, and then I went right up to a half Ironman. I did 2 halves and 2 fulls. I went to South Africa to do Ironman South Africa, and I was I was up there to win my age group or
Right.
at least qualify for Kona. I was 21 at the time. This was in 2001. So a little bit before you started,
Yeah,
but
just a little.
I got in and got out, and not as many people were doing it. So it was easier to qualify, but I did not finish South Africa. I got a lot of water in the goggles,
Oh, no.
like super salty water. They tried to pull me after the swim, and I was like, "Why?" Apparently, my eyes were a hot mess. I made it halfway through the bike, and I was just throwing up a lot of salt water. So, yeah, that was the end of that, but I had a point in the Ironman. I could finish, top 10% in the swim, but didn't really matter because it's such a small portion of the
Yeah.
overall race.
We generally say it's one on the run. So it's like, yeah, the swimming is important and so is the cycling. But really, those getting through both of those and having enough energy to then run a really decent 5K, 10K full marathon. Because we see it just again and again that people just kill the bike and it's amazing. And then they don't have any legs left for the run. So it is definitely one on the run.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was my worst part, but not even because it came last, but I had, like, 1 running speed, and I always said it looked a lot better on a marathon than it did on a 5K,
Oh, yeah.
so
I'm the same
I
way.
grav I
Absolutely.
I gravitated more towards those. So, okay, so you were a swimmer in high school, and I had already written down, did are you able to make this a full-time living? And it sounds like
Yes, and
you have
I
support.
do have a spouse who has a full-time job, and so, I don't have to worry as much as someone else who might be using it as their, like, main, source of income, and I am always, like, super aware of that. I come from a really big place of privilege to allow it to sometimes it's a hobby and sometimes it's a job, and so, as we've moved through time and grown, it is now a self-sustaining profit-making business, which is really great, and we're hoping to grow it more in 2026 into 27. Got some big ideas, some big plans kind of for that, but, it is self-sufficient and it pays me a little bit of a salary. I always said that as long as I could buy the groceries with the money that I made, I would feel like I was contributing to my household. And so I can buy the groceries and the Costco groceries with
Ooh,
I
that's a big one.
know, ding. And so that's was sort of like my mark. Now my next one is can I pay the mortgage? So we're sort of seeing how it grows and goes.
Nice. And you're in Florida? Did
Florida,
you mention?
Central
Okay.
Coast, Central Atlantic Coast, Florida.
So you have more of an opportunity to train and work year round.
Yes. It was one of the reasons we moved here was for that, for sure. Yeah.
Awesome. No, that sounds like a very supportive spouse then.
But yeah. Well, he loves the beach just as much as I do, so it definitely helped swing our decision when we were able to sort of just choose where we wanted to move to.
Awesome. Awesome. And it's trying to think how to best approach it, but I looked at your pay structure on your website. You seem to make it affordable, inclusive for a variety of different income levels, which is amazing because it often comes up on the podcast, the difference between like coaching as a hustle and more of a money grab. Like I think most people have the perspective of youth sports. Now you can play on your rec soccer team or your travel soccer team, but then you get the people who want parents to pay for all the more specific training.
Mm,
And
mhm.
perhaps those folks are giving, like, the independent coach more of
Mhm.
a bad rap. Like, do you ever have to come to terms with that or
Interesting. I really love working with beginners and people who are sort of new to the sport. And I feel like when people are new to the sport, they're not ready to make that like $350 a month investment
nor
because they
should
don't
they
know
be
whether or
really?
not
Yeah.
they like the sport or not, right? And so if you're chasing Boston or Kona or some other like just really big thing, getting a coach who has like all that experience, all that training, all that stuff that leads them to price at 350. You know what you want and you know how much it's going to cost. Triathlon is not a cheap investment sport at all. And there's a lot of foundations and groups out there that are trying to sort of bring down all the barriers to getting started in triathlon. And one of them is, economics. So when I was thinking like what kind of people I want to coach, what kind of people I want to work with, and then what they might want to invest. I was like, my prices are going to have to be a little bit lower than what other coaches might be because of that. So it's great because we have the community plan, which is just literally community. So it's team meetings once a week and all that other great stuff. And then there's the next level up, which is community with a training plan, which is really a sweet spot for a lot of beginners. And they're sort of training plans from my library. So they're what I would call like cookie cutter,
Mhm.
in that it's like sort of the same plan for everyone. But then, we have like the like really want to be coached at the high level kind of thing. And so I've had people that have gone from beginner on my team all the way up to wanting to do an Ironman. And that's sort of when they step into that higher level of one-on-one, really personal coaching. That's not to say that the people on the lower end don't get sort of personalized coaching because they do, because I can't stand not to. Right?
Picking up on that. I'm picking up on that just from this conversation.
It's like, "Send me your swim form and let me analyze it for you," kind of thing, and so, really, I just needed a way to, like, feel good about getting as many people into the sport as possible, and also to pay my mortgage, and that's sort of, like, the balance that came out of that.
No, I think you're doing it really well. You're going to be like my go to model for how to balance the two. Because, of course, that's kind of one of my other like soapbox stances is why is everybody okay with volunteer coaches? Why, of all the other professions, not even do we expect people to do this for free? So I'm absolutely all about you being paid for your time. But yeah, that balance is absolutely where it's at. It's funny, speaking to your tiered system and how other coaches charge more. Now, you certainly didn't say more experienced coaches or anything like that. And Rick Prince from USCO is not a fan of the tiered coaching model that
Mhm.
USA Triathlon has, the level 1, 2, 3.
Right.
And level 1, you can charge less. A level 3, you're charging a lot more. 'Cause he feels everybody should have great coaching, and
Right.
so I'd never thought
Yeah.
of it that way, and that's and you were definitely not saying that, like, I'm undervaluing myself, and I'm
Right.
charging less, you're charging less to make it more accessible for more people.
Yes, and I will say the being a level 2 coach and having gone through 1 and 2 and knowing that I'm probably never gonna be a level 3 coach, when I went to the level 2 coaching certification, it's really focused on working with high performance athletes and people chasing championships and really data hungry people and really, approaching it from like a working with professional like championship level athletes. And then level 3 is like a whole step up from that because you're working with Olympic athletes and Olympic hopefuls and things like that. And so of course your knowledge base is so much wider. And so one of the things we sort of toyed with for a little bit was sort of changing some of our messaging to be like train like a pro even though you're a beginner. because I carry the level 2 certification, and so, like, I know all that stuff, and then I bring it down to the beginner or the middle to back of packer people, and so they get really great coaching, and I get a lot of learning. I've been a lifelong learner forever, and so when they were offering level 2 and they had taken away some of the requirements for it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm all over that." Like, and I went out to it was great because it's in person, so I went out to Colorado Springs and sat in a classroom, and this was just last year, but for a long time, we didn't have classroom learning because of COVID. And then I met a whole slew of new coaches
I'm
who
sure you did.
are just amazing. And so now I've got this great resource pool to pull from. And some of them do coach professional triathletes, some of them coach Olympic hopefuls. It's an interesting tiered system that they have, but if like you're never gonna work with Olympic and Olympic hopefuls, then there's no need for you to ever have all that information that's at level 3, if that makes sense.
Do they have other continuing education? Because
They
ever
have a lot of it. They have every other year, they have the endurance exchange. And so it's coming up this year in January. And it's like 2 days of seminars and talks and lectures and keynotes and networking and all sorts of great stuff. And this year it just happens to be in Florida. So I'm like, yeah, I can
no,
go without having to
no brainer.
travel. It's beautiful. And then they offer continuing education throughout. So they have a specialty in youth and paratriathlon, and then a long course specialty and a short course specialty. And so those are really nice too. And so one of my like next things is to take the paratriathlon coaching. Our team is really, really about inclusivity. And I realized that one of the things that we can continue to open the doors a little bit wider is to have a coach that's paratriathlon certified. So we had a blind athlete for about 6 months, a year or two ago, something like that. And watching her begin her journey and finish her first triathlon and then go on, and now she's done a half Ironman and a full Iron, and they're trying to qualify for Kona, she and her guide. And so I learned a lot really fast from some paratriathlon resources that I could get. And I realized that there's like this whole world. I was like, I really should learn more about that. Because if we're breaking down the barriers, if we're really trying to be more inclusive, then understanding how to coach blind and deaf and people who are missing limbs and all sorts of stuff that might look like a barrier to triathlon, I should learn not only how that works in the triathlon system, because there's a whole classification guide for competing,
Mhm.
but also like how to be the best coach I can be for those people.
Well, I will say it sounds like you're already doing a great job. If this athlete felt comfortable enough to come and be part of your team, even though you didn't have the specific training, she obviously felt comfortable in that environment.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
It
you
was
should
great.
pursue the training so you can make it official.
But yeah.
Do you target a specific group of people?
Mm,
Like, what's the theme of your coaching?
this is interesting. So I really love working with beginners.
Okay.
I love working with people towards their first race or towards their second race if they did their first race on their own and just had a miserable time kind of thing. But I feel like I also specialize in people who don't fit into traditional spaces. So trans athletes, queer identifying folks, paratriathletes, those sorts of people that don't fit the norm. It's like, well, you fit the norm on my team because just by being an outsider, you're an insider here. And so I've had people come from other teams saying, I just didn't fit in. I didn't feel safe in that
Mm.
space. And so if I have a target, it's the people who it's really hard because it's a big target group. The outsiders
No,
is a
that's fine.
big target group. So them, and then I love beginners. I'd love to grab people before they learn the mistakes that will make triathlon ultimately not so much fun for them, and grab them in the beginning and make them love it as much as I do.
I can feel your passion. I also saw on your website your stress, whatever body you're in. Is
Yes,
that speaking
absolutely.
to the things you already mentioned, or are we also talking about size?
Right? So, definitely size is a part of that, and some sort of, like, body acceptance, body neutrality. We try not to talk about body positivity necessarily, but it's like body acceptance. In triathlon, there is a weight category that you can opt into. For women, we're Athenas, we're goddesses, and for men, they're Clydesdales, big, clumpy, hairy horses.
Yeah, yeah.
Me up every time. I'm like, why are they not Dionysuses or whatever? But and so I would say most people on my team at the moment would fit into the Athena category. And some of us are very competitive and we're always on the podium. And it's really great to see that. And some of us are what we call our party pace. We're the backup packers. We're really there to have fun. And I think when I crossed that finish line, I realized that there weren't enough people that looked like me in triathlon, and I wanted more people that looked like me. And so to do that, I had to be the coach that welcomed those people into the triathlon world. So that was really like the driving force of becoming a coach, was to make sure that it's less white, less male, and less super stick thin, like athletic, weird body types. And so for some people that really resonates. They're like, oh my gosh, I totally feel that. Some people are like, what? Yeah. And so it's like there's yeah, that was my whole thing, was to change the face of triathlon from skinny white men to big, beautiful, bodacious, outlandish, not men, I guess. We used to be like women only, and that was really great. And then we had some men join our team because our body positivity or body acceptance message really hit them hard. And that's when I sort of got to learn that whole like perfect body image and stuff. It's not exclusively an issue in, women's realms. It definitely spills over into the male world. And especially when we sort of think about the transgender world, there's just a ton of body dysmorphia in there as well. So we let some guys join our team, and then it that just sort of like opened the floodgates. And so we ended up with some trans athletes, which was really, really great. And I got to learn all the rules about that and
Is
how
there a
they
category?
so this is like a whole snarly thing with trans athletes
I'm
because they
having an author on, trans athletes.
not.
Uh, she was supposed to be last week. She canceled, but I'm gonna interview her next week. Go ahead. Oh,
I'm gonna look forward to that. I'm gonna like hunt it down. Um,
nice.
I'll let her do her job, but the easy answer is the rules are different everywhere. Ironman rules are different than USA Triathlon, are different than World Triathlon, are different than USA Cycling, USA Swimming, Masters Swimming, US Track and Field. Like the rules are just they're everywhere. And so it makes it tough to know, just like in like the bigger life, it makes it tough to know where you're supposed to fit in with all of that. And so when we pick a race, when my athletes pick a race or pick races, we often will go and look at the rules and see what they specify and see. So I have newer trans athletes and I have more established trans athletes. And sometimes that makes a big difference too, knowing how long it's been since you had your change in that official sense.
Well, I would assume because you structure it as such a team atmosphere, which I guess shouldn't really surprise me, but I don't know. With adults, I feel like so often, especially in an individual sport,
Mhm.
you're paying a coach for you alone, and the whole team atmosphere is gone. But it sounds like sounds like a party at every race for you
Yeah,
guys. Do you have a
pretty
team?
much.
Do you have a team tent
Yes.
and
We have a
stuff? Yeah.
team tent. We talk about how we go to a race to tailgate and maybe compete. So we do. We have a tent, chairs, a banner. We always bring donuts to share with everyone. So we'll have a little sign that says free donuts, and then people will come into the tent and talk to us. And we have like a big old box of stickers that kids love to just peel through. And then the parents have to come get the kids, and then the parents see what we're doing. And it's also just a really great place for the families and significant others of the racers to like be able to have a place to come and sit down. Because sometimes, like, you know, this in an Ironman race, that bike could be, 12 hours long. Like that's a long time to stand by the side of the road and not have, some snacks or some um camaraderie or a chair to sit in or that sort of things. We definitely have a party everywhere we go.
How far do you guys travel?
So, like, we'll take last summer as a great example. We went to a race here in Florida. Some people came down for that. I went up to a swim only event in Michigan, and there was about 5 or 6 of us there. That was really cool. And let's see, where else did we go? We were going to go to a race in Southern California, but it turned out no one ended up registering for it. This year is a really big travel year. And so we'll be in Austin, in upstate New York, in Michigan, maybe in Milwaukee, maybe out in Portland. So we sort of tend to figure out where people are going to be. And then when we hit like a critical mass, like 4 or 5 or more, then we'll decide to go there with a tent and, and set up and that sort of thing.
Awesome. I love it. For people who opt to have your personalized training
Mhm.
or even your your cookie cutter model, as you said, how do you deliver that? Do you use Training Peaks? Do you
So I do use Training Peaks. I love it. I know a lot of people have a love-hate relationship with it, but I love it. And then we of course have swim bike run analysis, like video analysis as well. Like take a video on your phone, send it to me, and we'll do that. And then we meet once or twice a month and have like a coachiness. But then also we meet every week for a team meeting. So if something's really going on, like, you've got a chance to grab me and see me in person at least once a week, which I
and
really.
I would encourage everybody to go to your website, but for those who don't, can I just put it out there that you're charging what, $25 a month for the like community option and they still get these 4 in-person your once a week
Yeah,
meeting?
yeah,
It's amazing. I love it.
yeah.
I finally found the book. It's called Fair Game: Trans Athletes and the Future of Sports. Yeah.
She's gonna be on your
Yeah.
podcast?
I now feel like I am such a, like, legit podcaster because
I'm
you know
so
everybody
excited. I
I'm having on
cannot wait to
here.
hear that conversation. That's gonna be amazing.
Yay. No, and you'll have to listen to the one from Rick Prince too.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I should. I really should.
Do you have any clients who aren't local?
So, none of my athletes are local.
Okay, okay.
This The closest athlete I have is in Fort Lauderdale, and she's like 2.5 hours away.
Gotcha, gotcha.
I have a couple on the Gulf Coast, which is like 3 or 4 hours away, but then I've got, Iowa, Wisconsin, Maine, Southern California, Northern California, the DC area, and then Missouri. So we have people everywhere, which is what
So,
makes the team meetings every week so great. Like that's how we've built this community that works. Is we see each other on a regular basis. We have a thriving text message thing going on. We've got a Facebook group. And so a lot of times someone will like ask a question about something, and before I can even get in and offer my coachy wisdom, other people have jumped in and said, "Oh, that's a great race," or "Here's a good sports bra," or "No, those shoes aren't going to work for you," because there's just so much wisdom on this team and so much genuine love for each other. I got my goosebumps, but
that's awesome.
yeah.
No, because you spoke of community so much that, duh, it didn't even occur to me that this was all happening virtually. Okay, so even more important about about choosing races or like coming together, you're meeting up only at races.
Yes. Well, we have a training camp once a year, and that this year it's February 26th to March 2nd. And generally, I would say like a third to a half of the team will come to that, which is really great. And then we'll get a few people sort of from the outside, some beginners who, someone told them like this is a really great team and you should join or you should go to camp or whatever. And so we have like that kind of party every year. And it's really funny because someone will say like, "Oh, I'm gonna sign up for Michigan Titanium." We were just talking about it in team meeting today, and someone else was like, "Oh, well, I guess I should too because you signed up." And then there was a third person who was like, "Well, I don't know if I want to." And everyone's like, "Do it." So it's this like great positive peer pressure for people
Yes.
to sign up for things and be at races and challenge themselves. Michigan Titanium is a great race. It's one of the few 140.6 races that isn't Ironman branded that still exists, and this is its last year probably. And so everyone's sort of clamoring to do that race because it's such a great 140.6.
I did the Mohican Pine Man, which was my
Ooh,
first Ironman distance.
nice.
Yeah, and it was interesting, and then 6 weeks later, I did my first Ironman branded, and there was definitely a difference.
Yeah, for sure.
Not better or worse, but, there was a lot more signage and and all of
Yeah.
that. But again, this was, 25 years ago,
A
so
while ago, yeah. It was different. It
yeah,
was a different landscape for sure.
yeah. I love that you're able to make a living out of it. What was your major in college?
Oh my gosh.
Can I ask?
Now see, now we're talking about, like, my other life. When I went to college, I got a degree in studio art with an emphasis on photography, and then I went to graduate school and got a master's in education with an emphasis in secondary education, and art education. And I taught in public school for 4 years until I realized didn't I loved my students and I loved teaching, which is why I think I took to coaching so well because it was like it's kind of like teaching in a way, but I just couldn't stand the principal that I was working with and like the leadership team at the high school. And so I was like, well, I got to walk away from this. And that was 2008. Teaching jobs were hard to find, but I decided that I really liked teaching adults because adults wanted to be in class. So I taught some night school stuff in digital photography and things of that nature, and then expanded that out into a technology business where our little byline was, we teach grandma how to use her digital camera. I did that from 2007 to 2017, and that's when we moved. And I didn't want to spend the time building up a whole new technology business in a new place where I didn't know anyone.
You built up a whole different business.
Exactly. And that was, that was really great. And yeah, I was looking for someone to take over my technology training, which had sort of also spread into helping small businesses use technology in really efficient ways. And so I had two clients that I really, really loved. And so when I told them, like, so I'm not going to do this anymore, I had found them someone I had found them a me that they could hire. And then I ended up hiring that person to be my virtual assistant. And she was the first athlete I ever coached to an iron distance. And now she's done four, and she did the swim around Key West this year. And let's see, she just finished Ironman Florida for like the second time. She's just a powerhouse. She's amazing. And she's a really great virtual assistant at the same time. So
See,
it worked.
I'm so glad I asked. That all ties in. So you had the entrepreneur thing locked down
Yeah.
from from
Yeah.
starting another, business. Do you think you use what you learned in your master's in education in your coaching?
I absolutely do. In the understanding that people learn different ways. So it's not like not everyone's going to benefit from just me talking at them. Some people are really going to need like the hands on experience that they can get at camp. Sometimes I'll go to a race where only one person is because I want to spend some special time with them, working with them hands on kind of thing. But I do use a lot of that. We meet every week and I teach things. It's not just like, "Hey, let's hang out." And so we'll do stuff about nutrition or gear or how to be safe on the roads. We talk about how to plan a season, how to balance time management, like that kind of thing. And so I use a lot of my teaching skills in those situations. But then there's also just like there's a lot of like classroom management that you learn as well, and I think that that is what really helps me be a community builder is sort of not treating it like it's a classroom, but sort of thinking of like how do I make sure that everyone feels welcome and that everyone's getting what they need, like that sort of mentality.
I also have a master's in education, and I totally find that it helps. Yeah, my undergrad's exercise science, and then I
Nice.
have a master's in education. But I absolutely, plus all my years in the classroom, I think helps
Mhm.
me understand kids better. I'm currently coaching mountain biking, and I I oversee a bunch of parent volunteers. I have like 15 dads, and you can tell the ones who are teachers
Yeah.
are better, for lack of a better word, but like they get it more. They not only understand cycling, but understand how to teach cycling because the two are not the same
No.
at all. Like you can be an amazing triathlete and that does not necessarily, at least in my opinion, it does not translate necessarily to being a coach.
Like, just because 'cause you're great at being an athlete doesn't mean that you're gonna be great at teaching people how to be athletes, and I was talking about this with someone, and they pointed out that people who are naturally really good athletes are naturally really good. No one had to teach them how to swim or how to run. They just did it and they were great at it. And someone came in and fine tuned things. So they don't know what it's like to not know how to swim and teach someone. And I was like, oh my gosh, it was
Yeah, they
such,
can't
like,
relate.
fundamental exactly, and I was like,
Yeah.
"Alright, so that's probably why I'm a great coach because, like, I'm good at swimming, but I know how to coach that. I've had training on how to teach adults how to swim." But I'm a very strong runner, but I'm not fast, and I don't like it very much, and I think that's what makes me a good, like, running coach is I've really had to learn how to be a good runner, and so I know how to teach that because I had to learn it. So you see a lot of, like, retired pro triathletes try to make a go at coaching, and they don't get why it's not working unless they're working with other professional triathletes or Olympic hopefuls.
Who just need that fine tuning and
Exactly,
yeah.
exactly.
I have, parent coaches who could ride circles around me when it comes to cycling, but that's almost like to the detriment of the kids because they talk about it at a level like this, like it's fulcrum this and like all like when we started 5th grade, I have 5th through 12th graders. So I'm always like, "Boys, do we know what a do
What
we
a fulcrum
know
is?
yeah, do we know what a flat pedal is? Let's start with that. Like, do we know what a flat pedal is?" And I think I learned to mountain bike 5 years ago. So it is
Nice.
newer in my mind than, somebody who learned 30 years ago. Doesn't
Right.
mean that you couldn't be a good coach, but I find, without spending a lot of time thinking about it, it's those people who more recently learned it themselves that
Mhm.
can relate
Yeah.
better.
So I'm just learning how to mountain bike for what it's worth, and I'm
Well, you don't really
very
have any
excited
mountains down there, right?
because I love it. Yeah, so we a lot of people call it trail riding, but it's the same sort of thing. And if you go into Central Florida, there are definitely some really big hills that and some really great places to to trail cycle and mountain bike. But I'm gonna go to camp not this weekend, but next weekend. Super excited.
Like, yeah.
There's a mountain bike training thing. It's called the Ninja Cycling, and they do like a women's only all day training. And I was like, that's exactly what I need. Like, I don't need dude bros. I need my
Yeah.
other like estrogen powered, let's go and do
No,
it kind of
I've
things.
heard good things about it. I've never
Good.
been, but you let me know how your coach is and if they wanna be on the podcast because
Ooh,
I would love to get somebody. I do think they put a lot of emphasis on coach education, like
nice.
educating their coaches and, so the coach developers are well educated. That's one of my things I'm gonna research for my dissertation is there value in having a doctorate of coaching in the United States? Such a degree exists, like in Europe, you can get a doctorate of coaching. And, my brother will argue, "Well, I coach Little League. You think I need a doctorate?" No, that's for the very top, like the people who are
Yeah,
designing the training for
the
USA
training.
Triathlon, things
Yes,
like that, or
absolutely.
Ninja, or any of those. Like,
Right.
it's got to start somewhere. And I don't think formal education is the end all be all in all situations.
Mhm.
Or am I saying everybody has to have it, but why not have it as an option?
Yeah, absolutely. Someone has to train the people who are coaching, and someone has to train those trainers. And those are the people you want that have those degrees with exercise physiology, anatomy, biology, chemistry, like those sorts of things, as well as communication skills, how to, like education, how to write a program that people are going to understand and learn from. So, yeah, I definitely see a place where that could exist, like a doctorate in coaching. That would
Yeah, I
be
mean, it is
cool.
such a multifaceted profession.
Mhm.
For those who can make it a profession, I think psychology may be one thing you didn't mention that I'm sure.
Uh,
Yeah, I'm sure you're doing a lot of that just from your talk of relating to different athletes and making a space for those who
mm,
don't look like all the other triathletes. Like, there's definitely some psychology going on
nice.
in that
Yeah.
reasoning.
For sure. Yeah,
Yeah.
the mental coaching for endurance sports is really starting to make a huge, like, it's starting to make its mark in the triathlon world. And so having like sports psychologists. And so you get like a coach, and then you also get a sports psychologist that you visit, like once a week or once a month or whatever it is, just like you would go to like a regular psychologist for regular mental health. It's really fascinating. It's very cool to see mental health and that and the mental game and that sort of thing. It's really cool to see that becoming more and more accepted, that it's not just get on your bike and go. It's how do you keep going when you hit mile 56 and you're just like ready to be done? How do you keep your brain in the game and keep going even though you're totally done?
Do you ever have guest speakers at your weekly meetings?
We've had some in the past. Generally, there are people who are like salespeople from different things. Like we had the guy from Form Goggles come, and that was really cool because he taught us all about form goggles and how they really sort of change your swimming and all this stuff. And they are very cool. And then we've had a few others here and there. I had an assistant coach for a little while, and her specialty was nutrition. And so that was really great because we really got some really deep dives into fueling not only for the rest of your life, but for your long runs and rides and races and things like that. I'm
Yeah.
always I'm always loving to have guest speakers, but that doesn't always work out.
Yeah. No, people don't like to do something for nothing.
Mm, it's really tough because I'd love to have a sports psychologist or even just like a regular psychologist to talk about mental health and all that good stuff. And there's just not a budget to like pay someone to come in for an
Yeah.
hour and do whatever. And it's like, not asking something for nothing kind of thing. But at the same time, I'm not gonna pay you your $350 rate to come in and talk to my athletes kinda thing.
What about somebody who has one of those online businesses starting to focus on triathletes?
Oh, yeah.
That might be the same kind of business model as your goggles guy
Oh, yeah.
for them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
You mentioned you had people come from other teams or who didn't feel accepted
Mhm.
elsewhere.
Mhm.
How much of that, or do you think any of that is attributed to the coaching they got elsewhere?
Sometimes it is a direct headbutt with the coach. And a lot of what I hear when it's a problem with the coach is, they didn't listen to what I needed, or the workouts were either too easy or too hard, and they didn't listen to what I was saying. I didn't get enough quality time with them. I had an athlete who came from a coach that was like $400 a month, and they got unlimited texting and email, but, like, 1 half-hour phone call every month, and then, like, a training plan, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? For $400 a month, I should be getting, like, an hour with you every week." Like, that's what I think, right? But, I think mine are maybe my stuff is a little skewed in that sense. So a lot of times it's they just didn't get along with a coach, or the coach decided to go and do something different in a different direction and they weren't interested in
Mm.
that. A lot of times um I've had a few people come from like local in-person teams where they do meet every weekend for a ride and a run and they have a swim team and all that stuff, and they just weren't comfortable with what the makeup of that team was. And I've even had one person was like, someone said something to me and I decided I was never gonna go back. And I was like,
Aw.
wow. So it definitely people leave teams and coaches for all different kinds of reasons.
Yeah.
But I do tend to draw the ones that need that safe space, that community where they're not judged, not whatever, just loved from the moment they walk in the door.
I My follow-up is gonna be for those who did leave due to the coaching, do you think there's, I don't wanna say easy fix, but do you think it's entirely, partially the coach's personality? It sounds like that's clearly a
Yeah,
factor, but
yeah.
do you think there's a training or some way to educate these coaches
Mm,
so they would be better coaches. At least they would have been better coaches for these athletes who left them. Or do you think it's like more of a decision? I mean,
right?
you might just say like these are not the people I wanted to coach anyway. So
Right. So I think some of it is definitely that like those aren't the kind of people I wanted to coach anyway. And so there might be like a little bit of like a resentment, right? This idea that I'd much rather take an athlete that pays me than take the right athlete that pays me, right? So there's a little bit of that. For some coaches, I think some continuing education in like how to be a good coach or how to listen to your athletes or things like that could definitely be beneficial, but that's not something we see a lot of in the continuing education. It's generally like how do you grow your business, how do you
mm,
use training peaks really efficiently, like those sorts of things, as opposed to like how to be a good listener, which a lot of people could really benefit from. Or, how to understand what your athlete is asking for because they might not have the right words because they haven't been coached for very long. So they don't
right.
know how
Well,
to
you
say
don't
things.
know what you don't know. Like you're
There
not.
you go. Yeah.
Yeah, which I hadn't thought of, but now poses a yet another question is, how would you ever convince those people, or what would make a coach like that ever see a course like how to be a better listener, how to be a better coach, and for them to identify, "Oh, I have a need for that information because I must better myself."
Right. And that's all that you can hope is that the coaches that are out there want to learn more, want to be better, understand that they have blind spots, that they don't necessarily know. And so by going to something like that, they might learn something and then become the better coach, right? But then the coaches who will go, like I would go in a second to learn how to be a better coach. And maybe that's I'm not the target audience for that, right? Like I could possibly be the person like teaching that class. But so it's like the right people wouldn't go to the class and the wrong people would ignore it.
Yeah.
And so you run into this like nothing's ever gonna change, so to speak.
And it's funny because this line of questioning did not start with me being like, "Ah, this is another way to look at being reflective." But that
Mhm,
is a big part of coach research and is a theme that comes up on most of my interviews is
mhm,
a coach's ability to be reflective. And then we sometimes talk about older coaches have more life experience because
mhm,
you're not just reflecting on your coaching self necessarily, but your whole life.
mhm.
You've got a lot more to reflect on and a lot more just knowledge. But yeah, I would say it's those coaches who are not at all reflective, who would never
Mhm.
identify themselves as the ones who would need that type of
Yeah,
continuing education. I wonder
absolutely.
if anybody's even putting that out there. There is that kind of stuff for youth coaches.
Nice. That's good to
Yeah.
know.
There are a lot of I mean, it's fragmented, but there is training out there for sure, and there's a lot of free training. Mm, and I do often question, how come a person turns 18 and their coaches no longer have these resources? Like
Right.
safe sport, that's
Yeah.
protecting athletes up to 18. What about what about the college athletes? What about the adults? Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's
So
one
I
of the things, USA Triathlon requires every coach to be safe sport certified, regardless of whether they work with adults only or kids only. And there have been things I have taken from Safe Sport and used in my own practices because it's such a there's a lot of people that really, really, really don't like it. They hate having to do Safe Sport. I don't work with kids. Why should I ever need it? And it's like maybe look at how it can influence the rest of your life and the way that you coach and the signals that you can listen to from your athletes that maybe in an abusive relationship or things of that nature. So safe sport is great.
Yeah, I guess it's more of the required trauma-informed coaching
Yeah,
practices
there
because that would obviously encompass a much wider group of people. Because
absolutely, yeah.
um and I'm just thinking about this for the first time, but yeah, I've taken safe sport and not been required to take it.
Mm,
So, I agree that there is value, and I really I don't think it's that taxing, it's not that big of a time commitment.
right, right.
It's also not a lot of new information for me because I've always been required to take something very similar being
Mhm,
a public school teacher every year because there were
mm,
also
mhm.
mandatory reporters, so but I thought it was done very well, like, I'm pretty picky when it comes to my coach education and just, training in general, and I was I was impressed.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really well done. It's really well put together, I think.
Well, I don't wanna take up any more of your time. Is there anything I haven't asked about that you would like to talk about?
Well, we covered the team and the membership levels. We talked about camp, which was great. Anyone, anywhere is welcome on the team. And so we talked about that. I think we covered all the high points. This was really great. You did a great job.
Thank you, thank you, and you didn't say it, but I'm just gonna call you my first fan because you've been impressed with my other guests, so you're also in very good company. See?
Yes. It's very exciting when I find out like the other people that have been on podcasts and I'm like the fangirling over like an author. Like it's just like
Nice. But I just feel like there's so many people I could talk to, so yeah,
nice.
but you got in on the ground floor, so thank you.
Love it.
Thank you for spending this hour with me, I really appreciate it.
You are more than welcome. Thank you for inviting me.
And we're going to keep in touch. You make me want to pay you
Oh, yeah.
$25 a month.
I already, made my little note to, if my instructor is good, to put her in touch with you, and then if I think of other people, one of my athletes is doing her PhD dissertation on people who did sports in middle school, high school, and how they think it changed the way they are leaders as adults.
I love it. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you're walking away with some new knowledge and something to reflect on. And if this episode resonated with you, please consider sharing it with a friend or subscribing on your favorite platform. Until next week, take care and thanks for listening to Sport Coach Education.